Welcome to The Warp. I'm Jack Rita, and this is my second video where I'm going to be talking about fantastic flares. This is going to be the Yellow Alert edition, where I'll talk about 10 flares that I really like to have in the game. And I'll be honest that this set was a little more challenging because there weren't as many Yellow Alert flares that really jumped out and said, yeah, these are fantastic. There's a lot of Yellow Alert flares that are fine. They're decent. And some of the good ones were one shot. And I tried to minimize how many of them would be one-shot flares, meaning that you play it once and then you have to either discard it or give it to the alien who corresponds to that flare if they're in the game. So there is one in this set, but I tried to minimize that because I like to see flares played again and again, and you're only going to get that wild effect once if you have to discard it or give it to that alien, which then it becomes a super. So let's take a look at these 10 flares. I'll tell you what they do and talk a little bit about why I like having them in the game. Let's start off with Bully. So Bully is kind of a mean flare, as you might guess. It's a main player only in the reveal phase. As a main player, when your opponent reveals a negotiate card, you may force that player to either immediately give you a colony on a planet of your choice where they have a ship, or else lose 2 ships of their choice to the warp. And then cards that change to negotiate, such as with an emotion control, still trigger this effect. So this one, you're attacking somebody, and they've revealed a negotiate, and let's say you reveal an attack card. Well, you're getting a colony there. And then you can further punish them by saying, I'm going to be getting another colony out of you. Or you can force them to lose 2 more ships. And most of the time, you're going to be looking to get that extra colony. But every once in a while, yeah, more ships. And what's interesting is if they're losing ships and you make them lose more ships, that's more compensation that they're taking you, unless I've missed my calculation on that one. So maybe you want them to take the lousy cards out of your hand, and that's one of the reasons why you might check that second effect. But like I said, most of the time, this is a great way to get an extra colony. You can get a colony on defense as well, of course, if you can get them to negotiate. And what's interesting about it is it doesn't say anything about your card. So just says, as a main player, when your opponent reveals a negotiate card. So you could both be saying, yeah, let's do a deal. We'll both play negotiates. And you could actually play and reveal one, and they did as well. And then you're like, blam, Bully. So I like that in there. It really shakes things up. Our next yellow flare is Cyborg. So Cyborg, real simple, straightforward. Play the top card of the discard pile as though it were in your hand. You may only use this flare once per counter. So this is as any player, any phase. While you're playing the game, you're looking at what's in the discard pile, and then you're saying, yeah, you know what? Let's do that right now. So you can do that as a main player if you see a high attack card in there. If someone has played an artifact that you can then take advantage of, reinforcement. You really got to pay attention to what's in the discard pile, and this is a lot of fun. So every encounter, you could potentially cyborg something, and I love that effect. It's really interesting. Our next one is Klutz. So this one is interesting. It's as any player, any phase. It says, for the rest of the encounter, each time another player should draw more than 1 card from the deck, and that would be the Cosmic deck. Anytime you refer to the deck, it's going to be the Cosmic deck. Even if you have the reward deck in the game, unless it specifies that an effect will include the reward deck, it does not include it. So each time another player should draw more than 1 card from the deck, you may deal out that player's cards and deal 1 card face up to that player, deal 1 card to the wrong player other than yourself, or do both with the same card or 2 different cards. Now, it's going to be a little bit confusing for some people to like, do what now? But basically what happens is if somebody's like, all right, well, I'm getting 3 cards from the deck, and you can be like, let's klutz that for a second. And you can say, all right, well, 2 of those cards we're going to be doing something with. And you can say, all right, this one I'm going to give to you, but it's going to be face up. So everyone knows that you're getting this. What is it? Oh, it's an attack 10. So everybody knows that. And you can say, this card we're going to give to green instead of to you. But what you can do is you can say, I'm going to give this card to green, and it's going to be face up, and I'm going to do that again. So you can do that with the same card, or both of them. You can do it however you want, and again, you're only affecting 2 cards, and it only works if they're going to be drawing 2 or more cards. But that would include a new hand as well. So it's a really interesting effect once you've diagrammed the sentence and understand what it does. Our next one is Leviathan. So Leviathan is the one that is a one-shot, but it's an interesting effect, kind of fun. When you're a main player in the Destiny phase, as the offense, so, it should say as offense only, because it tells you in the description. As the offense, after Destiny is drawn, you may trade 1 home planet with the defense. Your planet moves to the defense's home system and vice versa. The encounter immediately ends successfully. And then you give this flare to Leviathan, or you discard it if a Leviathan is not in the game. So you're basically getting a free foreign colony, as long as the planet that you're moving has some of your ships on it. And what's interesting is that this can have additional ramifications. So let's say that you have a planet in your system that has your ships on it and the other player's ships on it. Now you've moved it to their system. Well, that's going to be a home planet for them. That foreign colony that they had in your system is no longer a foreign colony. It's a home colony. So their score goes down by 1 and yours goes up by 1, because that is now a foreign colony for you. And the planet that you move to your system, if it has any of their ships on it, they are getting a foreign colony. But if you target a planet where they don't have any ships, then they're not getting anything out of it. And now anybody else who does have ships on it is going to be getting a foreign colony, but they're not getting an additional one. It's just moving its location. So they're not gaining anything. And of course, if you have ships on there, you would be losing a foreign colony and gaining a home colony. And maybe you need to do that in order to regain your power. So that there might be incentive for you to do that. But most of the time, you're looking to pick up a foreign colony by using this card. That's why it's a one-shot, getting a foreign colony every turn. Well, every encounter as the offense. That would maybe be too powerful. You let me know if you think that should have been not a one-shot. All right, our next one is Might. And this is main player only, Alliance. As a main player, after alliances are formed, if your opponent has more ships allied with them than you have allied with you, you may force all allied ships to return to their colonies. So this is it levels the playing field. You're like, all right, well, everyone's helping you. Well, maybe not. And once people know that you have this, because you can use this again on another encounter, it helps to draw more allies to your side, or it discourages people from allying against you, at least, because they know, all right, well, I guess we're not going to get in there, unless you card zap it. That is going to be a great deterrent and a great incentive to get people to help you. So I like that. It's really changes up how things unfold there. Our next one is Quartermaster. And this one's kind of fun. It's as any player, any phase, when a player gains cards as rewards, you may fulfill one or more of the required number with cards of your choice from your hand. So this is a great way to unload cards that you don't want. You could pass cards that are useful to another player. And again, once people know that you've got this, you can leverage it in different ways. You can say, all right, I'll tell you what, next time you get rewards, I've got some good cards that I'll give you, and you can target aliens that are looking for specific cards, like Diplomat wants Negotiate so that they can use their power. You can say, look, I've got some Negotiates. I can get those into your hand. If we can make a deal the next time we are facing each other. So that it works out, and especially when, you try to tempt people with these things when they're getting the rewards. You can say, all right, look, I can give you these things. You can also use it as unless you do my bidding on the next encounter, I'm going to give you these garbage cards that you don't want and not let you get the cards that you do want. So just as a way to threaten people to help you out. So I like that, having a little extra leverage. Our next alien flare is Seeker. So this is when you're not a main player. during the alliance phase, if a player invites you to ally, you may demand to see the encounter card that they intend to play. If they ally with you, then they must play that card if possible. Now, you can only demand to see one of the main player's cards this way, but this is a really nice way to make an informed decision when the players are inviting you. You can say, all right, I'll tell you what, let's see what you're going to play here. You're like, oh, the 40. All right, great. Yeah, sure. I'm in there. And, they're only showing you, so they don't have to make that public. Or they're going to be like, oh, okay, you're playing the attack 0. So you're like, you know what, I'm going to pass on that one. So very, very handy to have. I love having the Seeker Flare in the game. All right, now we have Shadow. So this one, bit of a spoiler, like a lot of the flares from the Green Alert here. So as the defense only, when you lose an encounter and your opponent played an attack card, you may send one of your ships not in the encounter to the warp to take all opposing ships to the warp with you. In spite of winning, the opposing players do not receive colonies on your planet. So if you don't mind losing one more ship, you can basically just screw over all the other players, especially if they've all allied against you. And this is one of those cards that is not a one-shot. So people know, all right, well, we can't really expect to get a colony if we attack that player because they've got that flare. So it's a nice little insurance policy and helps to protect you from getting ganged up on. All right, next we have the Sniveler Flare. So how does this one work? This is when you're not a main player or ally in the alliance phase. When you're not invited to ally at all, you may complain to one main player. And if that player still does not invite you, they may not invite any allies. Previous allies return to their colonies. So we got a lot of these alliance flares in there, and I like this Sniveler one. If you're like, hey, you know what? I want to be in on this encounter as well. And if you don't let me join, you're going to be going it alone. So I enjoy that. I like being able to keep using that over and over again. And then along with this alliance theme, we have the Usurper Flare. And the way this one works is when you're a main player, before allies are invited, you may choose to have the outcome of the encounter be decided based solely on the number of allies' ships per side. So whichever side has the most ships from allies will win the encounter, and you will skip the planning and reveal phases entirely. So now you have to play this before the alliance is joined, so it can be used against you. You can be like, all right, I'm doing this, and if you guys join my side, you know that we're going to win. But they can join the other side and know the same thing. So, but when you've got Usurper in the mix, and then you also have Might, or you've got Sniveler, it can really shake things up in that regard too. So I like that. I like these aliens that create these interesting and unusual situations in the game. Give players, especially those who are not the main players, a little extra leverage that they can use to help try to maneuver things for them. That's what excites me about flares in Cosmic Encounter. So let me know what you think of these flares, and if you have some Yellow Alert flares that you think should have been in the top 10. If there maybe was one that would replace the Leviathan that was not a one-shot flare. I will do a video that's just on the one-shot flares entirely, maybe just the best 10 over all 3 alert colors. I'll look and kind of do an evaluation and see how that turns out. Flares are one of my favorite things in Cosmic Encounter. They were not a part of the base game in the original Eon edition. They showed up several expansions down the road, but they did become part of the base game in the Mayfair edition and in the Fantasy Flight edition. And it's kind of funny that they're the one card that doesn't have its name type on it anywhere. Doesn't let you know this is a flare. Could be a little bit confusing for new players, but I do like to include the flares even when I'm teaching Cosmic to new players, because I think they're a game-changing effect. They're so interesting. Probably one of my favorite things about it is the fact that you're going to have a certain number of cards in the game You don't know what they are. You know that the ones that match the aliens in the game are in there. You're like, all right, if we're playing 6-player Cosmic, we know that 6 of these flares are in the game, but there's going to be more. It's going to be 6 more flares. We don't know what those flares are. We don't know what the effects are. I love that, and it really changes up the game from one to the next. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. We'll keep doing them.